hasn't it been a wonderful year, this year part, and then the other two parts, well, we can be surprised or interested by. So, the first part, it is to God's glory that we bear much fruit. We bear much fruit, and there's been so much fruit here at South Coast Baptist College. I'm going to make a fruit salad to represent just some of the fruit. If I went through all the fruit, we just wouldn't have time. And the first bit of fruit I want to share is this pineapple, and this represents a substantial piece of fruit that is representative of our awesome STEM building that was completed this year, thanks to the wonderful work of Mr. Mitchell, who instigated a master plan with our architect, thanks to Mr. Trevor Darch, organising builders, thanks to the input from our technology staff and science staff, thanks to so many people. We have a fantastic facility that students and staff are enjoying now. I've got a wee little man, what is this, apricot here, and that represents some of the awesome friendships and other character traits that are being developed on our camps that can go into our fruit salad bowl. That picture up there is a picture of a sinkhole such down in our southwest, and there's a person that's actually abseiling into that sinkhole. And before we abseiled into that sinkhole, we got told there was tiger snakes at the bottom. And I thought the instructor was joking, but he wasn't. Thankfully, we didn't see any. These strawberries represent many of the awesome achievements of individual students that have taken place this year, and there's been so many. Our students here tonight are just some of the students that have achieved awesome things, and they go into our fruit salad. We've got a kiwi fruit here that represents Yo Fest. Our girls and guys danced their hearts out and took out first prize in a whole variety of things. Well done to those dancers. We have an orange to represent our football feats and victories. Our senior boys at long last took out the state championships, as did our junior boys this year, and some of our girls achieved some fantastic things as well. Orange is a great fruit salad, in that goes. I've got an apple here to represent fantastic times overseas. We had students go to Bali, students go to Singapore, and no doubt other places I can't recall at this point. In goes the apple. What else have we got? Oh, I love mangoes. And how sweet it has been that Mr. James Trimble, who has his work ethic from his dad, who also doesn't mind a 12-hour work day, he's done a brilliant job of instigating our GATE program this year. And one of the activities that he initiated that I had the pleasure of attending was an excursion where we heard from Professor Eric Mazur, who's a famous physics teacher. Oh, that was a great day. Physics teaching. Now these bananas here that are not quite ripe, they represent Mr. Gideon Chu, who next week's going over with 3 of our students to Queensland. And Mr. Chu has an uncanny knack of coaching our students to get into the Australian physics team, as he did 3 years in a row. And we're pretty quietly hopeful that our students heading over this year are going to also do a great job and bring home some fruit, some more trophies for our cabinet. What else have we got? A pear. This represents our Go Green Day, which is an awesome initiative from our GATE students, and of course our Waste Warrior, who did a fantastic job of trying to energise our primary students into being a bit more green. And I've got to put my hand up that I'm very keen to do that myself. Lovely sweet nectarine here represents some of our students that had fantastic opportunities thanks to our awesome careers advisor, Mr. Scott. And we had girls going into the workplace, we had boys going into the workplace, and plenty of them managed to score opportunities, job opportunities for next year, which was a brilliant outcome. You can see that our fruit salad just continues to build here at South Coast. Now, of course, all of these achievements, our fruit salad is not fruit salad without some cream. I might be going more green, but I'm not going more healthy at this point. So I can hear you thinking, what does that represent? And that represents the abundant, ever seamlessly, never-ending supply of love and kindness and compassion from our awesome staff and also our students. So in goes the whipped cream, and that gives our little vitamin-rich blueberries something to stick to. These represent awesome new initiatives like Rocket League, thanks to Mr. Norris. In they go. Oh, look at those. Magnificent. It just keeps going on. Miss Phoebe drove 17 hours along with a few other staff to go whale shark watching, and they also took some students with them. And you can see Miss Phoebe up there having an awesome time. She got paid to do that. She's living the dream of an outdoor education teacher when things work well. So that's this beautiful peach. In that goes for our whale shark initiative. What else have we got here? It just keeps getting better. And there is one last thing, and I think a good fruit salad just needs a bit of chocolate. And the chocolate that needs to go onto this fruit salad, this represents, and it goes, there we go. This represents the sweetness that is avid. Our students are going to be empowered when they leave our secondary school, actually empowered to be lifelong learners, because they'll have awesome writing, inquiry, collaboration, organisation and reading skills that all of their staff have been teaching them. And that is just a brilliant initiative that we have going across our secondary school as well. Now this is just some of the fruit that has been brought forth this year, thanks to our wonderful students, thanks to our awesome staff. And it's just an absolute pleasure to be here. My job is just to try and keep up with all the awesome things that people are doing. You can see that awesome sound that comes up when the awards come up. That's Mr. Norris doing his thing. That's a nice little surprise. And that's pretty typical of what happens around here. Parents, can I commend you, our awesome staff, our teaching staff that day in, day out bring engaging lessons. They are magnificent, they work so hard. Parents, can I thank you for your coaching and all that you do at home. And students, can I congratulate you. The fruit that we have this year, represented here, is the outcome of all of us doing our best and working together. And so let us all celebrate and give thanks to everyone that's contributed tonight. Now I normally finish there, but I know Mr. Wee likes my talks to be nice and long, so I thought let's give him a bit more. And as we know, parents of teens, when you think you've got all the good stuff out of the bag, we know there's a little bit more left in there. And at the end of the year, when we've got to clean it out, unfortunately we hit upon things like lemons. And lemons we know taste a bit sour, and unfortunately every year there's a few things that are a little bit sour, not so great. It might be perhaps, I don't know, got dumped by the boyfriend, or it might be, ouch, it might be a really low mark. It might be a fail. A fail. And what was interesting was Eric Mazua, professor from Harvard, he referred to high achieving students. Sometimes he said they can be fragile perfects. That's what he called them, fragile perfects. Perfects, because they often get high achievement, and then they're fragile because when they get that fail, it can actually cause them to come undone because they're used to achieving so well. So how do our students that normally score well do at our college? What should they do with the lemons? So I'm not too sure. Perhaps I'll just put the lemon here. Okay. Now we know, parents, that in our students, friends, have a bit of quiet, please. I know this is exciting. It's an exciting time of year. Parents, you know that there could be some random object in your child's bag that just comes out like, where did that come from? What is that? Well, let me explain this random object. This is actually a pepper grinder. And this was an unwanted object that I got for Father's Day this year. And as if that wasn't bad enough, 3 weeks after, I just came to realise, you know what, an electric pepper grinder with a little light, actually, has got some merit. And then my daughter knocked this fragile thing off the kitchen bench and it smashed. So you can probably see there, and we've got a little mark there, so I had to put it back together with super glue. So now I'm the proud owner of one of these things. This represents the random things that happen in our lives every year that come out of nowhere and you think, I don't want that, and then it got ruined a bit more. So, students, parents, I'm sure you can relate to something like that this year. I'd be worried about that falling off, but it's already happened, so things doing great ones. Now this eggplant, there's a few memes going on about eggplants these days. Eggplants are bitter. What do you do with the things that happened this year, kids, that made you a bit bitter? Parents and staff, there were a few things maybe that made you a bit bitter. What have you done with them? Are they still in your backpacks? Or have you dealt with them? What things have made you bitter? Are they still making you bitter? And then we've got these things. Now what the heck are they? What is that? I refer to them as celiacs, but we of course know, I got informed they're celiac, something like that. And they also represent things that we don't want. I can see the young fella, whose name's just escaping me, who read out the Welcome to Country. Chaz. I can see Chaz has got a broken finger, and I was talking to the other day saying, hey, I've been there, done that, I had a broken leg at one of these events. And every year there'll be something, it might just be small, it might actually be larger, that hits us, that actually is pretty difficult to deal with, and we actually don't know what to do with them. What do we do with those things, with these things that happen every year, sometimes big, sometimes small? Are they still in our backpacks? Will we carry them into 2020, or have we dealt with them? Now what you can do is, as we know, well, lemons are easy. Get some salt, some sugar and water, make lemonade. Deal with that. A bit of what we call growth mindset. The best mark I ever got was 0 out of 20. I got it for an economics essay in Year 11. I got 0 because I didn't answer the question, even though I wrote a page and a half. That was the best mark because I learned to always answer the question. And so, guys, if you've got some small things, if you had some fails this year, apply a bit of stoicism. What's in the way becomes the way, a bit of that growth mindset stuff, and that's the answer to some of what's taking place this year. But there's also an element of, for the bigger things, just growth mindset doesn't quite cut it. What happens if we've tried and we've tried and we've tried again and it still fails? What happens if it's too bitter and we've got nothing to give to make it better? What happens if we delve within and we've got nothing else left? What happens if we get something like this and you've got no idea how to cook it to turn it into something good? What do we do in those situations? Well, if I honestly wanted to learn what to do with these things, and if I wanted to learn how to use this, I would go and see our master chef, Mr. Highwood. And I would go over there and he would be able to give me a recipe, give me some pointers, and turn these things into something delicious. And I think that little picture represents what we can do in terms of us bringing some of our difficulties to God, who in the same way can turn these things into something that's actually quite awesome. Mr. Highwood's a very generous man, and the brilliant thing about Mr. Highwood is sometimes you could go over there and he would not only give you some pointers, he'd take it off your hands and actually cook it up for you, and in a few hours' time he'd offer up an awesome, delicious meal. So it's not just up to us when you go and see Mr. Highwood, and in the same way, it is not just up to us if we take our things to God. Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. If you have things in your backpack that are making you weary and burdened, come to me, Jesus says, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is easy and my burden is light. That is great news. God empowers us to forgive. When we receive forgiveness, we're empowered to forgive others. God empowers us to love. When we receive love, we're empowered to love others rather than get bitter. And lastly, what's awesome is it's not just up to us to pull ourselves up. God tells us that He will lift us up out of the miry clay, out of the mud. He will set our feet upon a rock and give us a firm place to stand. Students, you're here tonight because you've got some awesome marks, but don't place your sense of self-worth in your marks. Failure is part of your future. And when you fail, you don't want your sense of self-worth to fall apart. Place your sense of self-worth on something that is a firm foundation. And lastly, and I was meant to bring a bin along and I forgot. But at a certain point in all of our lives, we're going to be in the same position as this woman who is in Bali. And we met her in an old people's home. And I made the mistake the previous year of asking a lady if she had any family, and her answer was, I wouldn't be here if I had family. And I realised that an old people's home in Bali is really an orphanage, because old people in Bali, they live with their family. So I didn't ask that question this year. And this lady here, she probably only has memories of fruit in her life. She is in that unfortunate position where she's outlived her children, and there's probably not that much fruit left, and the fruit's gone. Imagine me just tipping this into a bin, and potentially she would say that represents her current lot. What do we have to offer her? Why can we smile when we go into a place like that? Or I went into a respite centre with some of our students this year. I didn't meet her, but some of the other students met a young girl that was 22, 23, just finished her chemical engineering degree, and she got a diagnosis of cancer, and she was in a very tense position as she was working that through. And when I tip this out, you probably say, what a waste. And she's probably thinking, what a waste of her 4 years of study. And she's probably worried for her future. What do we do when the fruit is no longer in the bowl? Well, I give thanks to God who makes a way for us amidst disaster. And when we all draw to the end of our lives, when perhaps the fruit is perhaps a memory, God tells us that they will be his people, and God himself will lift them up. Will be with them. God will be with them. What's awesome is about Mr. Highwood, I go over there now not just when I'm hungry, not just when I don't know how to cook something. I go over there just to say g'day, just to be with him. And what's awesome about God is we get into this habit of taking him our problems, and after a while we get to realise he's pretty awesome himself. And heaven is an awesome God for eternity, plus everything that we have here, everything on earth that's awesome is a taste of heaven, a taste of the future. So while our fruit here may be gone, and may just be a memory, we have the hope of heaven that is before us. So parents, staff, students, I'm talking to myself here, if you have in your bag things from this year that are bitter, or things that are perhaps weighing you down, can I encourage you to take them to our Creator God, who is awesome, who can make something awesome of them. There is always hope if you take what you have to him. So, that is part 2, and now for part 3. Part 3 is a bit quicker, don't worry about that. And I would really like to sincerely thank some people who are volunteers here at this college that take responsibility for our college, and that is our college board. They're volunteers, and they don't get paid, yet they feel the weight of responsibility for our college. And we have some board members here. Mr. Steve Gallen-Boise is the chairman of the board. I'd like to acknowledge him. And if other board members are here, would you mind standing so that we can thank you for what you do for us every year in an unnoticed but awesome way. So please, board members, would you mind standing? Can you join me in thanking our board members? I'd also just like to quickly take this opportunity to thank 2 wonderful staff that have contributed hugely to our college over the last X number of years, and they are Mr. Wayne Strong and Mr. James Trimble. So Mr. Strong has been an awesome music teacher since 2004, 15 years. He started in a Demountable, he's wound up in an incredible facility, and Mr. Strong is an awesome musician. He plays whatever instrument is required in the band. He's servant-hearted. He goes about things quietly and efficiently, and he's so adaptable, and we are going to miss Wayne for not only what he does, but also for what he contributes here. So Wayne, thank you, you will be missed. And before we acknowledge that, James Trimble, like his father, an incredible man. He's been here only 4 years, but they've been an action-packed 4 years. He's instigated AVID across our college. He's instigated the Gifted and Talented program, debating. He's been a wonderful head of English, and has led our staff in so many awesome ways. James, you will be missed for who you are and also for what you've done. Thank you to you, James, and Wayne as well. Can we please acknowledge those guys? Parents, thank you so much for entrusting us with your children's education. It has been a pleasure. We look forward to the journey ahead, all that 2020 has to offer us. And it is my pleasure to just say, have a wonderful holiday. We have not yet finished, of course, this evening's facility presentation, so I'll hand back over to Mr. Scott. Thank you.